What is going on YouTube? I'm Lamont at large. Today I am in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm at Rocky Point. The waters behind me, Narragansett Bay. These waters hold many secrets. One secret in particular is why I'm here. These waters hold the secret of possibly where Adam Emery is. Today we're going to talk about the Adam Emery murder. One of the most senseless murders I have ever written about in my entire life. Let's get into it. We're going to go back in time a little over 30 years ago. This is Rocky Point. As you can see, a very scenic and nice walking path. Now, back in the day, right up in this area right here used to be an amusement park, and they would be open in the spring, summer, and part of the fall. Many kids would come from all over Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut to just come out here, ride some rides, eat very greasy food, and just have a good old time. And this is also the general area where a very chance encounter between Adam Emery and one Jason Bass. So we're going to go to that night. It's a little before 10 p.m. Adam Emery is with his wife, Elena Emery, her sister, and I believe a man that she was dating. So you had four people, two couples in a car in Adam's Ford Thunderbird. They were here drinking beer, eating greasy crab cakes, celebrating their second-year anniversary. They were still in love. Everything was going good in both their lives. Elena was working for an accounting firm, and Adam was a purchaser for a plastics company. He was a former military policeman. They were both young at the time, in their late 20s. I believe Adam was 28. Things are going great. So they're just hanging out, eating, laughing. And all of a sudden, a car comes driving past them and just knocks out the back of Adam's taillight. And just continues to go down the street like nothing happened. Immediately, Adam says, "Hey, that guy just hit me. That guy just hit me," and he's just driving off. So Elena starts saying, "Hey, let's go get him. Let's go follow him. Go chase him." He starts the car, puts it in drive, and the car that hit them just made a right turn. So he has to hurry up and go catch up with them. The car peels out, and they're chasing these guys. "Hey, you're going to pay for those damages." They hang that right, and way in the distance, they see the taillights of the car that just hit them. He's on the gas. He's gassing it. He pulls up alongside the car. In the car, the driver, Jason Bass, his cousin Joshua, and their friend they had just picked up from work. They were giving him a ride home. Adam pulls up alongside Jason's car. He's honking his horn, he's screaming, "You hit me, you hit me." This guy is going absolutely ballistic. Now, Jason's scared. He's like, "What's this guy tripping about?" And his cousin Josh was like, "Man, just keep going, man. Just drive away from this lunatic." So he speeds up past them. Jason's driving a Ford LTD, so the engine's gonna be bigger, so floors it, and they start chasing each other, going all through the streets here in Warwick. Adam is banging on his horn. Stop, pull over. He's demanding that he's pull over, and Jason ain't gonna do that. He's scared out of his mind. He doesn't know what this guy, he don't know who this guy is. He don't know what he's capable of. This guy's a lunatic. Eventually, Adam corners Jason where he's unable to move. He gets out of his car and is just yelling at him. "You hit my car, you hit my car. You think you could just hit my car and run away? You think you're gonna get away with this? And as Adam exited his car, his wife, Elena, she gives him his knife. She says, "Here, honey, you're gonna need this." And he probably looks at her and says, "You're so smart. Of course I'm gonna need this knife. That's why I married you. I love you so much. You're so smart, baby. Thanks for the knife." She's like, "Yeah, baby, get him. They're not just gonna hit our car and think they just run off." And as he's yelling at him, Jason's scared out of his mind. He pulls the car in reverse and is getting out of there. And all of a sudden, Adam starts slashing at him with the knife. Slashing at him with the knife. Well, the slashing turned into a stab. He takes that military-grade serrated knife and plunges it right into his chest. He basically killed him instantly. Jason's cousin jumps out of the car and starts banging down all the houses, trying to get somebody to call the police. His cousin's just been stabbed, and he's just bleeding out all over the car. Just by happenstance, one of the doors that his cousin was trying to bang on a door, he was basically trying to break into the guy's house, was a police officer. And of course they eventually called 911, and by the time they got to the scene, there was absolutely nothing that could be done to save his life. He was already dead. He basically died instantly. So the police are talking to Adam and they said, "Well, what happened?" And he says, "Well, I was eating with my wife and our friends, and this guy hit me and I chased him, and then I was in fear of my life and I stabbed him." Now, it didn't take much of a 6-month rookie officer to surmise that this guy is in the wrong and there's probable cause enough to arrest him. So they arrested him and charged him with Jason's murder. So for the next 8 months, Adam Emery sat in the jail, I believe the Kent County Jail, and the sobering realization is starting to take place in Adam's mind. His lawyer walks into the room where they meet in jail, and he tells Adam, "Hey, listen, the car that hit your car, that wasn't Jason's car, that was somebody else's. They did a test. They tested the paint chips from Jason's car with the paint chips that were left on your car, and it didn't come from Jason's car, it came from someone else's." So not only is this guy a murderer, he murdered this guy for no reason. Jason had nothing to do with the accident. He sat in jail for about a total of 8 months until he was able to make bail. Elena's parents, they put up their house as collateral. When you've been charged with a crime, in particular a serious crime such as murder, it's always in your best interest to bail out of jail and fight your case from the outside. You look better into the eyes of the court fighting your case wearing a suit versus wearing a prison jumpsuit. So he gets out. The prosecutor is talking with Adam's lawyer, and they're working out a deal. Adam has no criminal record. He was a police officer in the Rhode Island National Guard. People vouch for his character. So the prosecutor says, "Okay, how about we do this? How about we do this? Tell your client, if he pleads to voluntary manslaughter, we'll end this today The sentencing guidelines is about he'll do about 5 to 7 years. And with good behavior, maybe you'll be out in 4, 4.5, hell, maybe even 3. Maybe we'll kick you out in 18 months, who knows? And Adam says no. He is adamant about the fact that he believes he was defending himself, even though he killed somebody, he chased after them. And on top of that, the guy that he murdered had nothing to do with hitting his car. So Adam says, no dice, I'm not taking the deal, I'm taking this to trial. And that was going to be his absolute undoing. Adam's trial starts November 5th, 1993, and it ends on November 10th, 5 days later. We, the jury, find Adam Emery guilty of second-degree murder. And the courtroom goes crazy. You can hear Elena crying out loud. And then one of the newspaper reporters overheard Elena say, "I'm so mad I can kill someone." Listen, lady, as far as I'm concerned, you're an accessory to murder. You should have been in jail along with your murdering husband. I don't know why they never charged her with a crime. She's the one that pointed out the car. She was the one that was egging him on. She's the one that handed him the knife. Why is she not in jail, and why is she not being charged with any of this? An innocent young man was brutally murdered, and she's just sitting there, sitting pretty. So Adam and his wife, they exchange words. Now, normally, immediately the bailiff comes and puts you in your brand new shiny bracelets, and then they cart you off to jail, and then you await sentencing. However, he had posted another bail, I guess they do that in Rhode Island, to where he can remain free and get his affairs and orders before he is to return for sentencing. Now, in hindsight, if I were Adam Emery and you offered me 5 to 7 years for a murder that I committed against somebody who was totally 100% innocent, yeah, I would not only take that deal, I'll do my time breakdancing on top of my head. So this guy's facing 20 years to life in prison. And this is where the story gets very, very, very interesting. This is the Narragansett Bay. And off to the distance right there is the Newport Bridge. This bridge is about 2 miles long. At the highest point, it's about a 219-foot drop to these waters. So you fast forward a couple hours, you just been convicted of second-degree murder, you're going to prison for a very long time, and rightfully so. In my opinion, however, you're only facing 20 years to life. You should just be doing life. And your wife should be joining you in that cell. So anyways, about 3 hours later, according to eyewitnesses, they seen the Emery's car right on this bridge. And there was, I believe, a walking path or some sort. And they were seen in this area. However, they left. Just before 7 p.m., I believe it was a law enforcement officer or somebody that works for the bridge or the authority that controls the bridge, seen a car idling right in the middle of that bridge at the high point right there. The car was running, nobody was there. They run the plate, and it comes up to Adam Emery. Now immediately, when the police officer sees that name, automatically he knows who that is, because this story is the biggest murder case probably at that time ever, and in my opinion to this day in Rhode Island state history. So they're thinking to themselves, obviously, they jumped. They parked their car and they jumped. For the next week, an exhaustive search for their bodies up and down these waters right here. Boats and helicopters, planes, and people walking up and down this beach right here. Now, normally when people jump off of bridges, particularly this one, because, you know, people have done it plenty of times, unfortunately, jumped off this bridge, their bodies normally end up washing ashore either on this very beach that I'm on, or you'll see it along the pier over there. But eventually, everybody's body does turn up. However, after a week of searching, there was no body. Now, people then all of a sudden started to theorize that, oh, okay, so they made it look like they took their own lives and they actually fled the country. And for the next few months, going into a few years, the debate about whether they're alive, whether they're dead, where are they, what happened, everybody would be talking about it. Now, 9 months after their car was discovered running, a couple of leg bones were discovered in these waters. And then one of the leg bones had a sock attached to it. Now, they weren't sure whose leg bone that was. They did theorize that it could be possibly from either Adam or Elena, but the bone, when they measured it, they knew that whoever's bone that belonged to, the person was no taller than 5'7". However, this case would still remain a mystery until a couple of years later in 1994. Let's talk about the leg bones that were found in the Narragansett Bay and why the detectives felt that that was the leg bone of Elena Emery. So after Adam was convicted of the second-degree murder, the Emerys were seen around town at a couple different places. Number one, they were seen at a local Burger King eating and laughing. Not really the personality trait that somebody would carry on their way to meet their maker. Number two, they were seen at a Kelly's Sporting Goods store here in Cranston, where they purchased athletic weights, ankle weights, waist weights, an athletic jumpsuit, and athletic socks. The very same brand of socks that they sold to the Emerys was found on that leg bone. Now, even though the examiner said that whoever's leg bone that belonged to was no taller than 5'7", he also felt that the leg bone was that of a man. But the detectives, they felt that more than likely that was at least Elena Emery's leg bone. Now, let's move forward to August 30th, 1994. It's a sad, sad day in the Emery household. Why? Well, their house is getting repossessed. Why? Well, when Adam made bail to come back for sentencing, you pay 10% of the bail and then you have to put up collateral. So the collateral was Elena Emery's parents' home, which they were losing that day. That very same day that they're losing their home, the moving truck is in the driveway. Yep, get all your stuff. This is my house now. A commercial fisherman in the Narragansett Bay drew up his fish nets, and in the net was a human skull. So immediately he calls the police. The police come, they collect the skull, and they take it to have the dental examined to see if they can match it with anybody. And guess whose skull it is? Elena Emery's. Parents lose their home, find their daughter's skull. Okay. And coincidentally enough, that happened one day before the anniversary of the Jason Bass murder. Now, to this day, Adam Emery, his remains have never been found. He was been declared legally dead, I think in 2004. However, the FBI, for some odd reason or another, have gotten credible, according to them anyways, credible eyewitnesses that claim that not only is he alive, that possibly he lives in Italy. Maybe he has a new wife and new kids, and he's Italian, and he speaks the language, and maybe he forgot about his life that he led here in the United States. Maybe when they park their car, they put their weights on, they put their athletic suits on, and they're standing on the top of that bridge. Maybe Adam Emery pushed her. And then he just walked off the bridge. Ladies first, anybody? And for anybody kind of wondering about jumping off of a bridge, a 219-foot drop, you hit the water, your body's already going about 60, 70 miles an hour. You're basically hitting concrete. Bare minimum, you're going to break your legs, you're going to break some ribs, you're going to break some arms. If the initial impact doesn't kill you, you'll drown. And of course, when you're wearing 40 pounds of athletic weights, well, that's just going to help your cause, as far as I'm concerned. And this has been a case that I remember as a boy watching on Unsolved Mysteries, and I always made it a point that if I ever came out to Rhode Island, I definitely would want to visit all the locations of this terrible murder. And this is, of course, is a murder that just didn't have to happen. Did not have to happen. The Emery grave is probably the most well-known grave here. Now, you have a couple other notable graves here. You have Nick Colasanto, who played one of the bartenders on Cheers. You also have David and Lynn Angel. David Angel was a television producer. He was the television producer for the show Frasier, and he died on September 11, 2001. He was on Flight 11, and that was the first plane that struck the World Trade Center. But away from those two graves, this grave, in my opinion, is probably, if you're a local to Rhode Island or even in the New England area, this grave is probably, in my opinion, I'm going to say the most well-known, at least locally, in the area. And right here, right off the beaten path here, this is the grave of Adam and Elena Emery. As you can see right here. Dominic DeRocco, that's Elena's brother. And you can see their pictures. You know, during the trial, Adam Emery, even though he killed somebody and he took their life, he was so adamant about him being the victim. I mean, he literally thought he was defending himself by chasing that poor kid down and plunging a knife right in his heart. Right in his heart. And his testimony on the stand did not help his case, because if you were watching the trial then, you would have seen a man that showed absolutely no sympathy, no empathy for what he had done. His testimony was very robotic, very methodical. He literally thought that he did nothing wrong. He should have took the deal. He'd have been out by now. They would have had grandkids and, you know, they'd have been working and just having a great time, doing whatever they did. It was that callous nature in which he exhibited his personal feelings about the case that was his own doing. And here's another fun fact about the case. When he got sentenced on the second-degree murder charge, the judge, it was up to his discretion on what he would give him as a sentence. There was no sentencing guidelines for second-degree murder, at least then. So if the judge wanted to, he could have gave Adam Emery 2 weeks in prison. He could have gave him 0. He could have gave him life. It was up to him. And Adam knew that on the stand, he didn't win any fans any favors. Everybody just looked at that guy like he was a complete and utter douchebag. I also forgot to mention earlier about the curious case of what was said after the sentencing. So when they were looking for the Emerys, they were looking at the news footage, and they were looking at how Elena was saying something to Adam, and they couldn't figure out what they were saying. So one of the detectives got a hearing impaired person to read their lips. And as the person was reading their lips, they said to the detectives that she's saying, "We're going to do what we originally said. You promised me. We're going to do what we originally said. You promised me." So that means that they had every intentions on taking their own lives. And this was planned. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, your parents, who probably worked all their lives to buy their home, and they get it taken away, well, because you don't care about your own life, so why should you care about your parents' lives? A very, very selfish act committed by a very, very selfish couple. Let's not forget, even though Adam and Elena Emery get all of the shine, they get all of the attention in this case. This case would not be a case if there was no murder committed. So right now, we're going to take a drive about 10 or 15 minutes up the way. We're going to go visit the grave of Jason Bass. And here we are, our final stop. We're at the North Burial Ground here in Providence, Rhode Island. And through this crazy, sordid story of somebody being murdered over a car accident that they didn't even commit, and the disappearance of the Emerys, whatever happened to Adam Emery, through all of that, all of the attention has been on the Emerys all these many years. And let's not forget, there is a victim in this murder, and this is Jason Bass's grave, July 22nd, 1970 to August 31st, 1990. He was only 20 years old for a month. All of the attention has been placed on the Emerys, and people, including myself, have glazed over the fact that this kid did absolutely nothing wrong and did not deserve what happened to him. Did not deserve it at all. He died giving his friend a ride home from work. He could have said, nah, I can't do it, I'm busy, but he was being a good guy. And it's unfortunate that he ran into a psycho in Adam Emery. And let's not forget about the psycho's wife, Elena. She handed him the knife. As far as I'm concerned, they should have faced the music. Instead of screwing their parents over and them losing their house, you should have faced the music. You should have did your time in prison like a man. Instead, you went out like a punk. Rest in peace to Jason, and my condolences to his family. The only victim in this whole sort of situation is Jason Bass. Okay, guys. Lamont at large, I'm signing out. I'll see you on the next vlog. Peace out.